In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1 through 2, Moses 2 through 3, and Abraham 4 through 5 are the same story told 3 times. Let's go through the story and then we'll compare the 3 different versions. A bit of information that'll help you understand these chapters is the ancient Near Eastern conception of how the world worked. Ancient Israelites believed that the earth was a flat sheet with a solid dome at the top, which they called the firmament, also called heaven, held up by mountains. The sun, moon, and stars were within the firmament. Above, below, and on the earth was water. Thus, when it says, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters," it's talking about creating a space where dry land can exist between all the water. God created the earth with a specific order. Day 1, He created light and divided it from darkness. Day 2, He made the heaven and earth. Day 3, He made plants. Day 4, He made stars to differentiate time, seasons, days, and years, and then the sun and moon to rule over the day and night. Essentially, He created time. Day 5, God caused the waters to bring forth animals like birds and whales. God then commanded them to be fruitful, to multiply, and fill the earth He had created. Day 6, God created cattle, beasts, and creeping things. Finally, still on day 6, God, plural, decided to make man in their image, male and female, and gave them stewardship and dominion over all of creation. They were commanded to be fruitful, or to produce more than they consume, to multiply or procreate, to replenish the earth rather than deplete it, and to subdue every living thing for their benefit. It's worth noting that the Hebrew word for God in Genesis is Elohim, which is in its plural form as emphasis to God's greatness rather than in reference to multiple individuals. And all of it, all that God had done, was good. Notice that humans were the pinnacle of God's creation, and that the responsibility of caring for the earth was passed to them. God then rested on the 7th day and officially created the Sabbath. But in the 2nd chapter of Genesis, we get a bit of a plot twist. Everything that was just described wasn't a physical creation, but a spiritual one. God made every plant, animal, and person before they were placed on the earth. Nothing physically existed yet. Mist watered the earth, and God made man from dust. The man was tasked with taking care of the garden in Eden that God planted, and told not to eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, lest he should die. The man is henceforth called Adam, which means son of red earth. God then decided to make something good enough to help him. Every animal was created and brought to Adam, but none were sufficient, and thus was woman made. Woman is not a helpmeet, she is a help-meet, meaning a help good enough. Also note that man, both male and female, in God's image, were already created spiritually prior to this. Thus, woman's creation was not an afterthought, but already planned. Woman was made from one of Adam's ribs, suggesting that man and woman are vital to each other. A man is incomplete without a woman. There's a piece of him literally missing. They're to cleave unto each other and be one flesh. This is God's official ordination of marriage between man and woman, to leave your father and mother and become your complete self with another person, to be a help meet for each other, as eternal companions. Mankind, male and female, husband and wife, is after the likeness of God. The Joseph Smith translation of these chapters, also known as the Book of Moses, opens with God speaking in the first person, telling Moses to write all these things down. It continues like this: God revelating to Moses all the information within Genesis 1 and 2, adding that man was created in the image of God and the only begotten, which was with him from the beginning. Other than these things, the text remains mostly unchanged. Abraham is interesting considering that it's not beholden to the text of Genesis 1. It's the same story but from a different hand, a different mind from a different time. The wording seems to be more literal and straightforward. Reading both accounts will definitely give you greater understanding of what exactly is meant by some of the esoteric wording in Genesis. One of the most striking differences is the liberal use of the gods as the creators of the earth, which would make sense as the Book of Abraham, by all outward appearance, seems to be an Egyptian translation of a Hebrew text, meaning Elohim, being the plural form of that word for God, would be translated as the gods. Even though we as Latter-day Saints understand that the earth was in fact created by multiple individuals that could most certainly be classified as gods, I don't actually imagine that's what's intended by the text itself. It's more likely to be that the translation is just too literal. In my opinion, the most important thing to take away from these chapters is that man is created in the image of God. The infinite, timeless being who exercised divine power to create heaven and earth, formed your spirit and body in His image. Your spirit is of God's nature. Your destiny is to become like Him, except part of God's plan is to give you a physical body, which comes pre-packaged with something called the natural man, which is an enemy to God. Your godly nature and your manly nature are at constant war with each other. Strive to let God prevail, hold on to the gospel, and exercise the atoning power of Jesus Christ to overcome the natural man, and eventually fulfill your godly potential that you were created with. Ladies and gentlemen, We're officially in the Old Testament.